The gym buzzed with the chaotic energy of a typical training day, a symphony of grunts, clanging metal, and the sharp bark of drill instructors echoing off the walls. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, catching dust motes that danced like tiny sparks in the air. Recruits hustled from station to station, their movements precise yet hurried, muscles straining under the weight of both their gear and the pressure to perform. Among the throng of bodies, she moved with a calm, unassuming grace. Petite in frame, her presence seemed almost fragile compared to the imposing figures around her. Yet there was an intensity in her gaze, a quiet confidence that made her stand out even before anyone noticed her skill. At first, the mocking was subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone not paying close attention. Two burly recruits exchanged smirks as she approached the sparring mat, whispering under their breath. "Think she's ready for this?" one said, chuckling. The other shook his head, barely able to contain his laughter. They assumed that her small size and composed demeanor were signs of weakness, easy marks for a bit of entertainment at her expense. She ignored them, moving into position as instructed, her expression neutral. Every movement she made was deliberate, controlled, and calculated, like a predator assessing its environment with unwavering focus. The sparring session began, and the duo wasted no time. They launched themselves at her, expecting an easy takedown. The first shove hit her shoulder, a test of balance and strength, but she absorbed it effortlessly, stepping aside with a fluid motion that sent one of them stumbling past her. Before he could recover, her hands guided him in a lock that redirected his momentum harmlessly to the mat. The room fell silent for a split second, the unexpected display catching the attention of everyone around. She didn't gloat, didn't smirk, she simply released him and returned to her stance, breathing steady, her eyes calm and calculating. It was a brief moment, but the effect rippled through the gym like a shockwave. The laughter that had bubbled up moments ago faltered and died, replaced by whispers of disbelief. "How did she do that? I didn't even see it coming." The instructors exchanged quick glances, noting not just her skill but the unflinching composure she carried through the encounter. Every seasoned veteran present knew instinctively that she wasn't just physically capable, her mental acuity and timing were exceptional, traits that could only be honed through real-life experience rather than mere training. The mocking continued in fits and starts throughout the afternoon. Some recruits attempted subtle jabs, elbow nudges, exaggerated pushes, even verbal taunts meant to provoke a reaction. Each time, she responded with precision rather than force, neutralizing the attempts without drawing unnecessary attention. Her calmness became almost unnerving to those trying to intimidate her. It was as if their efforts were being reflected back, harmless but profoundly humbling. Others began to watch silently, curiosity replacing scorn. They leaned forward during drills, eyes widening at the fluidity and efficiency of her movements, realizing that what they had assumed was weakness was, in fact, a deliberate and devastatingly effective form of control. By mid-afternoon, the dynamic in the gym had shifted. The initial mockery had eroded into a cautious respect, though many refused to acknowledge it openly. Even the most aggressive recruits began to hesitate before acting, double-checking their assumptions. The instructors observed with keen eyes, noting how she subtly forced the others to reveal their strengths and weaknesses without ever appearing aggressive herself. There was an almost magnetic quality to her presence. She commanded attention not through noise or intimidation but through the quiet certainty of someone who had been tested in ways most could only imagine. A few moments later, a recruit tried a final, more direct challenge, shoving her aggressively during a combined drill. The gym seemed to hold its breath. She shifted weight slightly, redirecting his force with minimal effort, her movements crisp and exact. He stumbled, off balance, and for the first time, the laughter that had accompanied earlier attempts to humiliate her turned into stunned silence. She didn't speak, didn't react beyond returning to her original stance. The lesson had been delivered without a word. Strength was not always loud, and skill did not require arrogance. By the time the drill ended, murmurs had spread through the room. "Who was she really?" one recruit whispered to another. "I think we underestimated her," said someone else. The gym that had begun the day with taunts and laughter now carried an air of quiet tension, an unspoken acknowledgement that this recruit was no ordinary trainee. She had already earned a measure of respect, though she remained oblivious to the whispers, focused solely on her drills, each movement a testament to discipline, precision, and the quiet power that lay beneath her unassuming exterior. The murmurs that began in the first session didn't fade. They grew, spreading like wildfire among the recruits. The initial disbelief had evolved into quiet speculation. Who was she really? Where had she come from? Some whispered about previous deployments, others about secret operations, but no one could pin down the truth. Even the instructors, who had seen countless trainees come and go, exchanged subtle glances that spoke volumes. There was something different about her, something that transcended raw skill. It was in the way she carried herself, how she anticipated movement before it happened, how her eyes scanned the room with a calculating precision that made others feel exposed without a single word being spoken. By mid-afternoon, the atmosphere in the gym had shifted noticeably. The recruits who had mocked her before now approached drills with caution, their usual swagger replaced by hesitant focus. She moved among them seamlessly, guiding herself through obstacle courses and sparring exercises with the same quiet efficiency she had displayed earlier. There was a rhythm to her movements, a subtle control that suggested not just training, but real-world experience. Observers couldn't help but notice how she corrected her own mistakes instantly, adjusting her stance and grip with fluidity that came from countless repetitions, both in training and in situations far more dangerous than a gym could simulate. Some of the brash recruits tried again, hoping to test her patience, to see if the calm exterior could be shattered. One shoved her from behind during a close-quarter drill, expecting the familiar stumble or falter. Instead, she pivoted smoothly, redirecting his force in a motion that sent him off balance and almost into a wall. He scrambled to regain composure, face reddened, as his peers froze, jaws slack with disbelief. She didn't linger on the confrontation, simply moving back into position with her usual calm demeanor. The subtle power of her movements, the efficiency, the precision, was something that could only come from someone who had faced real danger, someone who had been trained to anticipate threats before they became a problem. Even the instructors noticed the shift. What had started as a routine afternoon of drills had become an unintentional showcase of experience, discipline, and composure under pressure. The veteran trainers exchanged silent nods, recognizing the unmistakable signs of someone who had endured rigorous operations, someone who had mastered both body and mind. Her calmness was magnetic. It drew the eyes of everyone in the room, commanding attention without any need for speech. The usual chatter of the gym had dimmed, replaced by an almost reverent silence, punctuated only by the sounds of exertion and instruction. The recruits who had been mocking her earlier now hesitated to act, second-guessing their instincts. Some tried subtle maneuvers, testing her focus or attempting to provoke a reaction, but each time she responded with the same quiet precision. Her hands moved like extensions of her thoughts, redirecting aggression rather than meeting it with brute force. Her composure was unwavering, her breathing steady, her posture flawless. The once confident mockers were now forced to adjust their own strategies mid-drill, trying to predict a response from someone whose skills and experience were beyond their comprehension. It was during one particularly grueling series of drills, combining hand-to-hand combat, obstacle navigation, and tactical decision-making, that the tension in the room became almost tangible. Every recruit could feel it, the unspoken realization that they were in the presence of someone extraordinary. She moved through the exercises with fluidity, anticipating attacks, countering with precise movements that neutralized threats effortlessly, all while maintaining a calm, almost detached demeanor. The energy in the gym shifted again. The initial laughter had been replaced by a combination of awe, apprehension, and a grudging respect. Some of the newer recruits began to murmur under their breath, trying to piece together her story. "I think she's been in combat," one said quietly. "You don't move like that unless you've done real missions," another added. The instructors observed with a mixture of approval and curiosity. They rarely intervened in minor conflicts, preferring recruits to work through challenges themselves. Yet even they recognized that this trainee wasn't ordinary. Her movements, her awareness, her ability to anticipate aggression and neutralize it seamlessly, all suggested someone who had been tested in situations far more intense than any training exercise. As the final minutes of this session approached, a few of the original mockers attempted one last challenge. They coordinated a sudden rush, expecting to catch her off guard. She met them calmly, eyes scanning, body poised, and with a series of controlled movements, she redirected each attack, her responses swift, precise, and effortless. The room fell silent again, the impact of what had just occurred settling over everyone present. For the first time, it was undeniable. This wasn't just skill, this was mastery, the kind of capability that came from experience, discipline, and relentless training. By the end of the session, the atmosphere in the gym had transformed completely. The mocking had vanished, replaced by respect and cautious curiosity. Whispers about her background continued, but no one dared approach her with anything less than genuine acknowledgement. She remained composed, focused solely on her own drills, unaware or indifferent to the speculation around her. And as the recruits packed up their gear, the unspoken lesson had been learned. Appearances could be deceiving, and strength came in forms that weren't always visible until tested. The gym's energy shifted the moment the doors opened. A tall, broad-shouldered figure stepped in, moving with the calm authority of someone accustomed to command. Even without words, the presence was impossible to ignore. Recruits froze mid-drill, some instinctively straightening their posture, others holding their breath as if sensing the arrival of someone who could see through any pretense. The man's eyes scanned the room with precision, taking in every detail, the angles of movements, the subtle shifts in posture, the smallest telltale signs of skill or weakness. Then, as if by instinct, his gaze landed on her. For a moment, the gym seemed to hold its collective breath. She was standing exactly as before, composed, unshaken, focused, unaware, or perhaps indifferent, to the whispers and stares. The faint hum of activity seemed to fade into the background. There was no need for an introduction. The sheer force of his presence commanded attention, and everyone instinctively knew something monumental was about to happen. The recruits who had mocked her earlier now exchanged glances, faces pale and tense. The energy in the room had shifted from cautious curiosity to an almost tangible tension, a silent acknowledgement that they were witnessing the convergence of two extraordinary forces. The colonel stopped just a few feet away from her, his eyes never leaving hers. The room felt impossibly still, the usual sounds of exertion and chatter replaced by a weighty silence. Then, almost imperceptibly, he leaned slightly toward the instructors and muttered two words, "Black Viper." Those words didn't just carry weight, they carried history, reputation, and undeniable authority. A hush spread through the room like wildfire, and every recruit who had doubted her moments ago suddenly understood that they had been standing in the presence of a legend. Recognition dawned slowly on some faces, disbelief and awe mingling with the sudden realization that this was not a mere recruit. Whispers erupted. That's her call sign. I've heard stories, Black Viper. She's the one they trained for the hardest missions." The words spread quickly, but none dared speak directly to her or confront her. The room itself seemed to shift in response, as though acknowledging her history, her reputation, and the skill that had been silently displayed throughout the day. Even the instructors, seasoned veterans who had seen countless recruits, felt a new respect. They exchanged glances, knowing that the subtle lessons she had been teaching all afternoon, through movement, composure, and precision, had been amplified now by the weight of her legacy. The recruits who had mocked her earlier looked anywhere but at her. Their bravado had vanished, replaced by a mixture of fear and awe. Every action she had taken during the day suddenly made sense in a new light. The calm control, the precision, the quiet confidence. None of it had been luck or mere training. It was the product of experience that few could comprehend, the kind of expertise that came only from surviving and excelling under the most extreme circumstances. They now understood that Black Viper was not just a name, it was a warning, a testament to skill honed to perfection, and a reputation earned through relentless dedication. The colonel's gaze lingered on her for a long moment, subtle acknowledgement in the slight nod of his head. There was no need for fanfare, no need for words, the recognition was mutual. The impact of that recognition rippled outward, affecting everyone in the room. The recruits adjusted their posture, moved more deliberately, and watched her every action with newfound respect. The gym, which had been filled with laughter and ridicule only hours before, was now silent in reverence. She moved through the remaining drills with the same precision and calm she had shown all day, but now each movement carried an added weight, the weight of history, reputation, and unspoken authority. Some of the recruits whispered among themselves, trying to make sense of what they had just witnessed. "I can't believe we were mocking her," one admitted, shaking his head. "We had no idea," another said quietly. Their lessons went far beyond combat technique. They had learned humility, the danger of assumptions, and the respect due to someone whose abilities had been earned through fire, sweat, and discipline. She didn't need to speak to command respect. Her presence, her movements, and the name Black Viper said it all. By the end of the session, the gym had been transformed. What began as mockery had evolved into awe and respect. She gathered her gear quietly, as unassuming as she had been when she arrived. The recruits packed up their equipment in silence, the energy now heavy with lessons learned the hard way. The colonel gave a final, approving glance, then exited, leaving behind a room forever changed by the presence of someone extraordinary. Her shadow lingered long after she left, a silent reminder that skill, discipline, and quiet authority were forces that could not be ignored. The name Black Viper echoed in every mind, a legend made tangible, and a lesson in humility that no one present would soon forget.